Becky, what's happening?
I'm just having a great Friday. How about you, John and Julie?
Doing
Good. You are for good.
Doing so good. So we're wrapping up week 4. We have been diving into entrepreneurial hacks. And I'm sorry, if you know us, you know we love to geek out on all of these topics because entrepreneurs just think differently. And we just know that so many of the mindsets and really practices that they put into startups really could revolutionize what we do in our nonprofits. So we're just here for that.
Yeah, and it's like, why have we not tapped into this
Right?
before? Why is nonprofit not completely linked arms with entrepreneurs? And I'm just starting to see the first tenets of that. And I have to tell you, I'm just really excited about it.
I know, I love it. So closing the loop, if you've tracked with these episodes, we started off super practical. And we talked about this idea of syndication. And we actually put together a workshop about it, and it's live on our website. So you can go to weareforgood.com/workshops, and you can access that to get all of the detail of that. But we talked through that. We talked through batching, which is just this idea of getting to
batching.
do more in less time. And then we talked about the big elephant in the room of failure. And thank you so much for all the feedback. I feel like that struck a chord, and it's something that we wrestle through all the time. So it's just been a fun conversation. But, we've had some practical applications. I think today is practical, but it's also a little dreamy. And I love the dreamy conversations.
I love it. I was just about to say, we have such one brain, which is frightening at times. I was just about to say, the fact that we can end in a creative space of dreaming and figuring out for those that are like, I am not a creative person. I don't have time to dream. I don't have time to figure out how I can gut this program and start fresh, or take the great parts of it and leverage them to build something that's even better. So if you're saying those things in your head right now, we're going to help you out today. Yeah. This is your day.
So this day is all about big thinking. And, we have been super blessed to talk to some really amazing big thinkers on the podcast. And I will tell you, we'll curate some of those in the show notes of some episodes to go back to, of just hearing people talk that just think differently. And that's such a powerful place to be, is to sit back and surround yourself with people that think differently. And I don't want to steal Becky's favorite word from her, but I feel like that's where we need to start.
Go for it. Steal my word.
Go for it.
Okay. You want me to talk about cognitive diversity?
I think you should.
Okay. So this is a word I heard a couple weeks ago, and I have to tell you, I've never heard of it ever. Cognitive diversity. And it's basically the inclusion of people who have different styles of problem solving, and they can offer this really unique perspective because they think differently than you.
Yeah.
So here's Becky's take on that. So if we have different thoughts and values and experiences and beliefs in life, and those are what we have known, and they are learned, and what we've been raised in, that has shaped what we have experienced. And so taking cognitive diversity is literally looking around and trying to understand where somebody else is coming from. And to me, it's that adage I use all the time, which is just sitting at the foot of a stranger allows me to see the world through their eyes, and I can get my worldview expanded. So,
which to me feels so much like the empathy mindset that we talked about, in season 1 of the podcast. Because I know if you're in nonprofit, you drink that Kool-Aid. I know that you are showing up for people that maybe don't look like you or don't have the lifestyle of you, but you're here to serve and to pour into different communities. But something that I think we're missing in this, especially in nonprofits, is that we get really limited of whose voices we're letting into our heads, especially in the professional development space. I think it's like, if I'm in a healthcare foundation, I'm only going to look at what hospitals are doing. Or if I'm in social services, I'm looking at what social services organizations are doing. And that's limiting the cognitive diversity that's happening, because we should be looking at tech startups. We should be looking at retail establishments. We should be looking at everybody to gain inspiration for how we can do our work better, how we can deliver more value to whoever we're serving, and just across the board. So I feel like this is the conversation that needs to be had.
And if there is the opposite of cognitive diversity, if there is a phrase, and it's my pet peeve phrase, it's doing things the way they've always been done.
We need a sound effect when that's said.
I know, it's like a wah, wah, wah. I don't know what it is. But it's like, really, the opposite of cognitive diversity is always staying in your lane.
Yep.
Always surrounding yourself with people that think and operate and act just like you. And, the world is so wide. our missions are so big. The way that we can impact each other is really lifted up when we can link arms with each other and learn from one another. The thinking gets bigger and bolder, and that's what we're talking about today.
I love it. And it's not saying that you should become somebody that you're not.
Right.
I mean, this is definitely saying we are staying very firmly rooted in the values that your organization exists for. Why does it even start? Or you as a person, definitely don't move away from the values. So I think something we want to definitely talk through, and we bring this up all the time, is start with your values and understand what those really mean and how that they can play out in every aspect of it. But that's the perfect launch pad to be able to dream really, really big.
Yes, and you have a favorite mission statement, core value from the Dell Foundation that you drop periodically because it resonated with you so much. And I think that's a perfect segue. So you should share that because that's yours.
But okay, it's just take the risk that your mission deserves. And I hope I didn't misquote that Dell Foundation. Love what you're doing. But sit with that for a minute. Take the risk that your mission deserves. All of us have organizations that were created to help solve something or eradicate something. It is requiring us to take big, bold risks. We don't start missions for really tiny problems. We start them to take on the world's biggest problems. And so action is going to have to follow in that same regard. So I'm so glad we just talked about failure, because we've got to get comfortable with failing. We've got to be standing firmly on our values, but then we just have to literally lean into these big dreams and big ideals and put that in front of people. And I think the best place to do that is in your vision, for your organization.
Absolutely. And so as you're getting right with your values, as you're starting to look at your vision, one thing that we would say you need to stop doing is quit looking for best practice case studies and then taking them, slapping your logo on them, and then implementing them as is.
Yep.
That is never going to be an authentic version or actionable way that you can live out your values, because that's somebody else's values. You might align in some ways, but it's we have to start pointing back to that vision, to that value, and making it relatable to who we are and what we're trying to achieve. So again, here's one more step where you can step back and get your clear values and your goals. Please, yes, look at case studies. We are all about research. Yeah. Sharing is caring. That's a great place, but nothing will be a one-size-fits-all model for you out in the world, because you are unique. Your mission is unique. Your audience is unique. Where you are geographically is unique. And so we need to start thinking bigger through the lens of how do we serve that audience? How do we answer the call for what our mission deserves?
In one real practical way that this conversation's already bubbled up in this season, and I saw a great conversation happening on LinkedIn yesterday with Empower Us and Give Butter, two great vendors in our nonprofit space. But just the same idea of quit executing virtual events in the same way that you executed your in-person events. This is a whole new frontier. It's the time to dream big, because a platform that has infinite reach and all these multimedia capabilities is totally different than what is at the country club boardroom down the hall for a luncheon. I mean, don't just videotape your event and put it on Zoom. Completely reimagine of how your mission could be threaded and told in a really compelling way. And that's just the simple hack of thinking bigger about something, re-looking at it, right? And pairing that with being unafraid to fail, because we're going to try. Our missions deserve it.
Absolutely. I think Dana Snyder touched on that a little bit in a couple of episodes ago. Dana's with Positive Equation. And can you imagine just taking your gala as it is and literally doing nothing but just throwing the video online? The amount of missed opportunities, the amount of missed engagement, the amount of missed storytelling, because there are things you can't do when you're physically in a room. It's not like you're going to talk to each other while someone's speaking on stage, but you can do that in a very non-disruptive way on a chat forum. Can you imagine if you had 100 people say, wow, that was powerful. What can we do to support? I don't understand this. I mean, you are literally disarming people and answering and getting their feedback. What a great way to lean into virtualness. And again, just having that small thinking of let's just throw it up there because that's what everybody's doing is going to limit your mission and your impact.
Love that hack. So let's break into some steps if you want to adopt this idea of thinking bigger in your organization, which hint, you should. Totally. We
should.
hope you're here for that. Let's just run through these. We've pulled together really some of the best practices we've seen and just things that have worked for us in our own career paths too.
There's 5 of them. So number one.
Number 1, dare to dream. Okay. So sorry if we sound like the ridiculous idealists, but that's what you're here for. We're here for it. But we talked about this last week. If you're feeling stuck in that vicious cycle of playing it safe to avoid failing, flip the script, right? Step out and just get in the mindset, because it is a mindset that failing is just this expectation that you put on yourself anyway. Yeah. So what is the risk? Our missions deserve it. So get in that headspace. Go back a few episodes and find it if you need that pep talk for your day.
Dreaming. Thank you for starting with dreaming. Okay, number 2 is very simple. Write down your goal. Write it down. What is it about writing it down for serial list takers like the Julies of the world? And actually, John, I think you're this person too. You know, writing it down and finding your eye coming back to it, make it visible, you know, explore it over and over and think, because it really challenges you to say, how am I doing that today? How am I going to implement that today? I mean, I have written on my bathroom mirror, you know, in lipstick before, just certain things. If we have mantras, you know, that we're trying to just get inside our headspace, you know, I want to be peaceful today, or I want to self-care today. You know, I do think that if you have a very big dream or a goal you're reaching for, put in a very visible place and stew on it so it's at top of mind.
I think that's really, really brilliant. The third one, and this is really zoomed out at a macro level for your organization, is to rethink your vision. And before you run down the halls and saying like this random podcast is telling us to like throw our vision out the door, I'm saying really just open the discussion to say, is our vision really big enough for what our, you know, cause deserves? Because I've seen a lot of mission and vision statements that to me aren't compelling, you know? And if you feel like that as a staff person, how are you expecting your donors to get behind that? But I mean, if you want a good place to start, I'm sorry that I keep quoting Simon Sinek's book, but
don't you apologize.
Infinite Game completely changes the script on that, you know, of really finding a just cause that you're fighting for, something that lives beyond any of us, but it drives us all to want to show up and dig in. Those are the kind of visions that we need to have in our organization that are going to allow us to have transformational philanthropy. And I don't want to miss opportunity to plug Bill Littlejohn's podcast. It dropped earlier this week, so just a couple episodes back. But Bill, you know, runs a healthcare foundation in the middle of San Diego, California. It'd be really easy for him to check the boxes of the program, put a certain programs in place, and raise a few $1 million a year in a wealthy part of the country. But what they did is categorically different. They looked at what the health system vision was to completely revolutionize the healthcare provided in San Diego. And when you attach yourself to a vision that big, that's where transformational philanthropy comes out. That's how you raise hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we're just here for that.
Absolutely. So we're getting into number 4, and it's my favorite one. Don't slice the pie, make the pie bigger.
Love it.
I know. I feel like it needs a little bit of a mic drop right there. So most people don't think big because they see the pie as a fixed size. And their thinking process is, in order for me to get a bigger slice of the pie, you've got to have a smaller slice.
It's so messed up.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you know that is nothing that that is the antithesis of this company. Right. So that is going to do nothing but create like a win-lose solution for you. And so what we really want to do is employ bigger thinking, because we want to create these win-win solutions. So the idea is really about expand the pie. Yeah. Think bigger. Add things to it that weren't a part of it before. And one of the greatest examples I feel like I've heard in our show was actually from Susan McPherson, whose podcast episode dropped last Monday. And she is saying, you know, there are times in our life where we don't know how to think bigger. We don't know how to employ community to do this. And sometimes we're feeling left out because we think that community, we're not included in there. But if you're actually not slicing the pie and you're making the pie bigger, Susan says, just go over here and start a new table. start a new table, make a new pie, make your pie bigger, and then we can all pour into this idea and have a win-win scenario.
Super powerful.
I love Susan.
Okay, the last one is super practical, and I just love it. You've got to set aside time to do this stuff. You got to set aside time to be creative, to read, to research, to meditate, create some space, like go to your schedule and carve this out. And, at my first real nonprofit job out of college, working for you, Becky,
what a
you
time
did this
to be
really
alive.
well. I think we were like this small cadre of disruptors and didn't know what we didn't know, fearless in that sense. But you carved out time in our week. I don't know if it's every week. It's probably every other week. It was called the Creative Brainstorm Session, the CBS.
We would literally put it on our calendars
Yep.
as CBS, and people were like, what is this?
Add acronyms to your calendar. That's
It'll
another
confuse
hack.
everybody.
But, this was kind of the ritual. It's like we needed to step out away from the day-to-day. We walked across the street to this somewhat sketchy gas station and got this somewhat sketchy slushy. And
like a bag of M&Ms. Like
Right.
we would all get a drink and you can imagine these business professionals walking across the street
in our khakis.
business casual. Yeah.
Yes. But the conversations that came out of that space where you could literally just have this room where people could throw out ideas of how do we approach this differently? Obviously, in what we talked about, grounded in your values, grounded in your goal, what you're really trying to accomplish, but thinking about the problem around those things, not around what already exists, because there's probably a better way to do it, and you need to break out of that mold. But we're saying it's not going to happen unless you actually carve out time to do it.
Carve out the time. And I think that is such a great segue to just talking about the role that community plays in thinking bigger. Because again, if we're employing that cognitive diversity, it means that we're bringing more people into this idea, into this brain trust and this think tank. And, I think entrepreneurs do this really, really well. They leverage, like sort of a mastermind cohort to expand their thinking. So the question really to our listeners is, what community could you leverage? And if you don't have one readily available to you right now, can you take the Susan McPherson strategy and build your own table? Can you build one and really get like-minded people who all have come from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different experiences that can pour into this? And I love that you brought up the creative brainstorming sessions, which is hilarious, because some of the biggest aha moments I felt like we had in there was from the sleeper in the group.
Totally.
The person who was the quietest, who didn't Becky them all the time, which is like talking all the time. They would pipe up and have the most mic drop moment. And that is when the creativity would just explode.
I love that. Well, thinking big, guys, is a learnable skill. You can do this. You really can do this. And who you're surrounding yourself by is probably speaking into that. You're either going to be growing or shrinking your thinking based on the time that you're spending and the ways that you're pouring into yourself and into others. And so be really intentional about that. That's our impartation. This is what entrepreneurs do really well, is that they lean into this because they know that's the calling that they're called to. And I challenge you that your mission is calling for that too.
And at the end of the day, it's all about community. That is our final core value of our company, that community is everything. You guys hear us say it all the time, but community can be such an uplifting and encouraging place. And community is going to help you break down your walls. It's going to be the thing that challenges you to go for it, because you know that there's a stronghold of people behind you that have your back, whether you succeed or whether you fail. And the community will keep emboldening you to keep trying stuff. We say this all the time, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And we recognize that not everybody has community where they are. And you may be a one-person shop in your part of the world, and you're wondering, how do I think creatively when it's just me? And I'm here to tell you, we've got you.
Yeah. I mean, we've been working behind the scenes to create this safe place, this big table. I mean, the table is really large because we want you at it, and we want to give you a place where you can come and find inspiration, find a place to vent and get ideas when you feel stuck, and a place to just surround yourself with people that are going to push you to think and dream bigger for your mission. So all of that is launching really soon. And the way to find out about it first is to go to weareforgood.com/hello, and that'll get you on our email list, and you'll be the first to know with an invite to join. It's going to be free and amazing.
You can bring your slushie. You can bring your Twizzlers.
I hope you do.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. And so please come over to our table. We have made room for you, and it is going to be something that we hope will be a systemically long play for you to come into a space with like-minded individuals who are rooting for you and rooting for your mission. So stay tuned.